welcome. I am Sarah Snell Cooke, your host here at the Credit Union Connection. I was joined recently by DCUC President, CEO Anthony Hernandez. We talked about the NDAA, what's going to happen with the budget bill. We talked about other legislation and activities in Washington and at NCUA. We discussed America's 250th anniversary as well as DCUC's annual conference, where there may be a guest speaker from America's Credit Unions. That's right, CEO Scott Simpson at America's Credit Unions may be joining Anthony on the stage. Let's connect with Anthony. Hello, welcome everyone. I am Sarah Snell Cooke, your host here at the Credit Union Connection. I'm joined by Anthony Hernandez. Welcome.
Thanks, Sarah. It's great to be here again. Always a pleasure. I enjoy doing these.
Yeah, I love having you on. So Anthony, as you probably all know, is the head cheese at the Defense Credit Union Council, the Grand Poobah.
Call me Tony.
Call you Tony. All right, that's enough. Okay, Tony. And so, yeah, we are here to talk a little bit about all the legislation and the craziness going on in Washington, America's 250th anniversary, and being a bicentennial baby, you know how old I am now, and as well as the DCUC annual conference. They got a big announcement. So let's get started. Anthony, tell us a little bit about the legislation, and I want to start with the NDAA because that's a huge one, right? What's the status of that? What are you looking for?
The House Armed Services Committee passed their version. It's a clean NDAA. We were keeping our eye on the Senate Armed Services version, and we haven't seen the actual bill text. That'll come out probably over the weekend or something. But we did get some good insight on what's going out there. The bill authorizes a 3.6% pay raise, but that impacts credit unions because now there'll be more disposable income for military families, leading to improved loan performance and reduced delinquencies, potentially. Stronger savings and deposit growth and an opportunity for credit unions to reinforce financial readiness messaging, and that's always important. It increases the force structure growth, which means Army's getting 15,000 more troops, Navy's getting 12,000, Air Force 8,900, and Space Force, and the Senate version is getting 2,800. And that just means more people coming on, which means military credit unions are going to expand even more. There's also that opportunity to increase your membership. There's some family readiness provision that deals with finances. There's expanded military family life counseling authority, and that's important just with all the stuff that military are dealing with. Improving the child care capacity oversight, and that impacts family finances too. More support for military spouse employment, which is, again, translates to more income for the family. Education support funding for military kids, and that's important also. And then tuition assistance for the active duty folks to get their advanced degrees or their associate degrees and bachelor degrees or advanced degrees after that. And so it just improves the overall readiness. And then there's more protections for tenants in privatized military housing who report housing-related issues. And that's important, just given the quality of life and the people getting housing, taking care of the housing. And that's another bill in Congress we can talk about a little bit later as well. Then all the other stuff, when they increase shipbuilding or they increase industrial capacity, that's jobs in the district, which leads to better financial in those defense communities that people operate on, and military healthcare changes and a whole bunch of other good stuff. What's not in the bill, although we're keeping an eye when it goes to the floor, is stuff like veteran member business lending provisions, community development financial institution provisions, CDFI fund, central liquidity facility enhancements, the Credit Card Competition Act, making sure that stays out. And so we were very successful last year in getting many of those provisions inserted into the Senate version. And we had 3 of the 4 corners sign off on it, except for the chair of the House Financial Service Committee didn't sign off on it. So they all got dropped in the final conference version. But looking to make the leap again and really advocate hard for credit union specific measures as they relate to impacting on military and military families. So that's big legislation that we're currently watching right now. The other thing that we're watching is the nominations, right? Particularly with John Cruz being nominated for the NCUA chairman position. And I think all that's coming to a head possibly before the 4th of July break. And that's real important for the Senate to look like they're actually doing something and pushing stuff. And especially in a midterm election, you want to be able to show that you can legislate, right? And we're watching for all those. And that has a lot of impact on the industry is getting a new chairman. And then what's also coming to a head is the Supreme Court ruling on whether the president has the authority to fire NCUA officials. It's a different agency that brought it up, but we're looking for that ruling to come out before the Supreme Court sessions end as well. So everything's coming to a head. And then you got you got housing bills and clarity and all these other things that are moving through the Senate and the House as well too. And there's talk of a third reconciliation bill to fund a lot of the defense, the 350 billion in defense plus up. The danger there is if that makes it through, the Congress is going to want offsets. And we're not raising the red flag on that, but my radar goes off going credit union tax exempt status, right? So we're already mobilizing to start setting our messaging now because you don't want to fight this inside of a week. You want to start the battle now. So those are the things we're working out on the Hill.
And it's that consistent storytelling of what credit unions are doing right to continue earning the tax exempt status. Yes, I am certain 99.9% of credit unions are doing the right things. It's just nobody knows about it. And so, yeah.
And we do this with Congress all the time, but we had two really good meetings with senior officials, one on May 26th with the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness with his Office of Financial Readiness. We met with their team there, and it was a very good meeting. We're resetting some of the things that we worked on before, and we worked very closely with DoD in the past. Some folks needed to retire. I'll just leave it at that, and they're gone. So I think the department's realizing that they've got a good public-private partnership with not just defense credit unions, but our counterparts on the banks as well too. And then yesterday, I had a really good meeting with the department's deputy chief financial officer, and his office writes policy for financial institutions on military installations. We're resetting the bridges also, and they're bringing it around to what we were talking about. They were very interested in our letter. Both offices were interested in the letter that we wrote to Congress, to the four corners of the Armed Services Committee, and wanted to know why those things needed to be in the NDAA. And I said, during the extended government shutdown that happened last October for 42 days, I was getting calls from the Army and the Navy and the Air Force on what are credit unions doing to help members out that aren't getting paid right now. And I'm like, it's what we always do. We extend zero interest not payday loan, but loans, right, to cover their military pay. And we do skip pay programs or restructure their stuff. I go, all that comes at the expense of liquidity. So the reason why central liquidity enhancements are in there is because credit unions need to be able to get liquidity so they can make life easier for people the next time Congress can't decide on an appropriations bill. Same thing happened with Coast Guard just recently, and they finally got that passed, I think, a month ago, and I think they did the rest of them, recently. And that's a practical application. And when I talk about veteran member business, lending, now that's to help military transition into a job for what we train them very well to do. And so all started making sense. And then when we got to, well, why do you need a federal advisory committee? I said, because you guys have made a lot of mistakes when you rolled out the Overseas Military Banking Act. You should have consulted with us. We could have saved you a lot of missteps on that. And I said, even more recently, the new DoD financial management regulation has some inconsistencies in it. And I gave him one example. I said, you said that both federal and state charters, by your regulation, are able to be fiscal agents of the government and accept public deposits. I go, not if you're a state chartered credit union, because some states don't allow state chartered credit unions to hold public funds. He goes, really? I go, yeah, but if you guys had talked to us,
you know that.
Yeah. I go, but the only reason why we went to a federal advisory committee is because we were getting what I like to call the Heisman. In other words, they were keeping us away, and they said if you want to do that, you got to go to Congress and ask for that authority, which implied a federal advisory committee. I go, if we agree to have a twice a year or 4 times a year meeting to go over all these issues, believe me, we can settle all these. And I go, and it costs you nothing to do that.
Mm.
We're already here in town. And it makes a whole lot of sense. So that was a good, it's been a great month for DCUC in terms of advocacy and where we see going, not
Mm.
just, not just on Capitol Hill, but inside the Pentagon, and then, working with the agency on a lot of their letters, a lot
Yeah.
of the deregulation that's coming out. Not all that some that we have some concerns about, but others we can see the wisdom in doing that,
Mm.
willing to work together.
Yeah, and it's funny you brought that up. No. Yeah, because one of the reasons I wanted to speak with you also, and I think DCUC and myself have aligned opinions. Most of the dereg is great. I think we have some concerns knowing the history about reducing the conversion disclosures to members during a credit union to mutual savings bank conversion. So and yeah, so just wanted to get your thoughts on that as well, because I think not many people have spoken up.
Yeah, no, it's important. The reason why they're there is because there was a good reason in the past on why they were there and some of the behavior that happened in the past. And I think I'm always worried about what losing the tax exempt status would mean. And so when I see language on that, I'm wondering, I always like to skate where the puck's going to be, not where it's at. So when I see stuff like that being proposed, I got to ask why or why
Mm,
now? What's going on outside of what would cause it? If we lose taxation and we have to go to a mutual savings bank, what does that imply for members? And how do we protect members' funds if that
mhm.
situation happens? So it was, again, I don't want to get into any conspiracy theories or anything like that. It'd be easy to do, but I think just understanding where NCAA is coming from and being able to provide comments on those, I think is important. It lets them know
Yeah.
that we're watching. And if we're the only ones watching, that's our role. But fortunately, there were a couple others that wrote letters with the same concerns as well. And I think it's good from a public comment period that, hey, we're asking some good questions to let them know that, wait a minute, let's take a look at this and let's not ask not just why, but why now and what else,
Mm.
so that we can either put any conspiracy theories to rest or get clarity on why they're doing it. Because maybe there's something that we can't see, and that's what the dialogue is all about.
And the question of member capital, if you're converting to a mutual savings bank, the capital that members built over usually decades,
Yep.
if not a century, is eventually a mutual savings bank. It's held differently. It's not owned, but the capital itself isn't owned by the members. And then when inevitably
Mhm.
99% do convert to a stock held bank, then it just goes out to pay shareholders.
Yeah.
And that's just, you might as well give up the credit union charter at that point. And I don't want to, certainly don't want it to go that way, which is why I'm raising the flag about this one in particular. But it was so controversial back in the early 2000s when it was actually happening. And I don't know if it's now just because it hasn't happened in, oh, one of the attorneys told me since 2012, I want to say, was the last conversion. And in 14 years, some people don't even know about it.
I'm just wondering, is there anybody out there thinking about it now? Who would most likely be in that position? And that's where you start asking some deeper questions: is why are we doing
Mhm.
it now? What's coming down the pike that I think we can perceive it? I don't want to get down any rabbit holes per se, but you got to ask why and why now. I think those are good healthy
Yeah.
questions to ask. Something else, you and I have talked about this offline and stuff, is with the federal regulator, right? Protect
Hmm.
the independence of the NCUA. And so if NCUA, again, it gets back to why and why now. If we're going to regulate everybody like a mutual savings bank and then go on to commercial banks, then what's the future of the independence of the agency look like? I mean, it
Yeah.
has all kinds of branches and sequels to it, right? Which is why we're
Mhm.
asking the questions. And kudos to the DCUC team with Jason Starrock and Elizabeth Agrubian for highlighting that, but also to all the others that wrote similar letters. You voiced some concerns. There was a credit union that wrote those, and then of course the endangered small credit union defense guys wrote that.
Yes.
It's good to have people at least asking those type of questions, and maybe others will start to ask the same questions too, going, "Hey, wait a minute." Or not.
Mm.
Then you got to ask, why aren't they writing letters?
And I got a concerned letter from a board member actually not long ago about the alignment. And I think this is something that kind of us who I grew up in the DC area, was a DC reporter back in the day, and yourself, the alignment of the NCUA with the administration. And I was like, that they are nominated and confirmed, or nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate, and you're just not going to have somebody who willingly, you're not often going to have somebody who willingly goes against the administration. In fact, one person did and lost their board seat way back in history over, I think it was the deposit insurance issue. So, yeah, I think it's very interesting the conversion disclosures. You would think in an act of self-preservation, the NCUA would want to keep credit unions. At the same time, the administration is streamlining the government. They are questioning what an independent agency really is. Can they fire somebody who's on the board of an independent agency like the NCUA, like President Trump did several months back now? And so I think it brings up a lot of questions, existential questions for credit unions, and we really need to be out there.
Yeah, and we've polished off a lot of talking points on the independence of the NCUA. It's credit union funded, it's not federally funded. There's a lot of we have a lot of good things going for us on maintaining the independence. But you sparked something, a thought, and it's interesting segue is that when you have that voice appointed by the other party on the board, and then you look at the same issue, problem set, whatever, from two different things, and you ask difficult questions and hopefully get to a negotiated settlement that's good for everybody. But that's the beauty of our Constitution and the way our republic was set up, right? It wasn't to be efficient. It was to be imperfect. It was to be let's deliberate some of these things, and it'd be easier to have everyone from the same party, a one party government, right? Just everything happens. And you're seeing that whether you're in a Democrat, a blue state, or a red state. It's good to have other viewpoints on there, and it's messy, but I think it's necessary because you get to a better one. And that's why we just released an America 250 video, right? And it's
Yep. I was just going to get to that. Yep.
But I like the way the video laid out, and we're doing this for all our members. So if you're a member of DCUC, you just send us your logo, and we will create a copy for you with your logo. The one we use is Keys Federal Credit Union. As Maggie Sayer, this president CEO of Keys Federal Credit, is our current chair. And so, but it'll have the credit union logo. So it'll say Keys Federal Credit Union proudly presents, and it's the 250 video. But I like the way it ends because it says every generation has asked themselves the same question is what is not just what America is, but what can America become or be? And that's the beauty of our republic is that we're not finished yet. We're always trying to perfect what we have, and things are out there. And that gets back to the comment you made, or at least sparked a thought in my head, is that you got to have that voice of opposition. Hopefully it's a loyal opposition, but you got to have it in order to look out for a lot of those pitfalls. And if it's not on the board, that's where trade associations, that's where credit unions themselves or interested parties come in and writing those comment letters going, hey, wait a minute, there's some things here that you need to be paying attention to. And that's our role within the industry, and happy to have as many partners, willing to do it. We're willing to pile on to somebody else that identified it also. That's something I learned a long time ago is you can get a lot done if you don't care who takes the credit for it. That's another beauty of moving forward. And one of our core values is selfless service, and that's hand in hand with doing that is what makes sense for our members. And we should jump on it if it benefits all, no matter who gets the credit for it. And that I know our advocacy team believes in that, and so we're happy to do it all the time.
Yeah, and I'm just
started
to
a
follow
long
up on,
segue there, but
no, I totally get it because we need people, not just DCUC, but the credit unions themselves to send comments in on these issues. Like you mentioned, there ORNL. I looked at the comment letters. ORNL in Tennessee is on there, has submitted. But we need more credit union voices and telling the story on Capitol Hill, on at the NCUA, so that they understand truly how these things affect your credit union operationally and affect your ability to serve your members. So it's important for credit unions to comment on these things because that is part of what makes America great for its 250th anniversary.
Yeah,
We get to speak up against the government and not fear retribution from the government.
yeah,
We get to support our opinions and ideas before the government. That's why we have a comment process at the NCUA,
absolutely.
regardless of what side you want to come down on.
Yeah.
Comment. Same with the members of Congress going to the Hill. Always keep your voice up there. Individual credit unions are so important to hear from, as well as potentially individual members that you can bring to the Hill as well.
Oh yeah.
That's the
Those
best
are,
storytelling.
I've said this many times. Congress will take a letter from DCUC or Pick a League or America's Credit Unions. We're not the constituent. It's much more powerful when a credit union, like you said, Oak Ridge National Laboratory or ORNL writes a letter because that's the constituent. And Senator Haggerty's on the banking committee. And
Mm.
you can voice your concerns several ways, either to the agency themselves or in Congress. And we need more credit unions to step up and be that voice. Our role as trade associations or leagues or system partners is to help write the letter and let the members decide if that's what they want to send or not. But that's where I see us doing more from a grassroots advocacy model and supporting that. And we love it when CEOs write letters that jive with it because they're the ones that vote. They're the ones that represent hundreds of thousands of members within those credit unions themselves, or in some of the larger ones, millions of credit union members, right? It all adds up, and those numbers mean something. Which brings me to the midterms, right? All I'm going to say is this is going to be another consequential election. And
Mhm.
so here's a public service announcement is make sure you register to vote, get knowledgeable on the issues, and then vote according to your value system and how that go. Your vote matters. When the pendulum swings left and it swings right, and things will change as we get new information or solutions work out or they don't work out. But that's the beauty of our system is every citizen gets a vote in the process. So public service announcement, register to vote, get knowledgeable on the issues, and then
Go vote.
choose your candidate. Yeah, and then go vote for sure.
Yeah, yeah, 100% agree. As a political science major back in the day. And you mentioned system partners and working
Yeah.
together and collaborating. So you have your annual conference. What are the dates for that and where is it again?
August 3rd through 6th, and it's at the JW Marriott Turnberry Resort. And we just came out with an announcement yesterday, and
Yes.
we got the agreement, but Scott Simpson's going to be appearing at the conference, and I've invited him to make a few remarks from the podium, and then maybe he and I sit down for a 1v1 discussion, right? I
Mm.
think it's important for the audience, which is made up of both ACU and DCUC members, to hear that conversation live and in front. And Scott and I agree on more than we would ever disagree on. That's the beauty of our system. But I know we're not 100% in agreement. Otherwise, why would you need two trade associations? You know, have different viewpoints, and that's okay. I am perfectly comfortable with that setting, and I think it's a healthy dialogue. So I'm looking forward to it. And so if you registered for the conference, you're in for a treat. We've got other great keynote speakers, and you can go to the conference website and check that out. We've got some great government officials that are coming as well, and we'll be announcing those shortly also. But if you're not, it's not too late to register. If you're not a member, I encourage you to come check it out. There's going to be a lot there, but I'm pretty excited about having Scott, and I'm glad he accepted the invitation. And I think it's a dialogue worth having. And we need to do more of that, not just with leagues, with system partners, with
Mm.
anyone that has the cooperative financial model, i.e. credit union industry in mind, and what's the future of our industry.
Love it. Yeah, because the credit union community is all about collaboration and
Absolutely.
obviously being collaborative makes sense.
Yeah,
Even more sense than it should anyway.
right.
Tony, I always allow our guests to have the final thought. What would you like to leave our credit union audience with today?
Again, there's lots of things going on the next couple months. All right. We mentioned America 250, and it's just good to reflect on. There's plenty of bad things to reflect on our country, but there's tons of good things. I'd say focus on the good, be mindful of the past, but focus on what's good about America. And we talked about a lot of them on this podcast. We also have the 25th as the 25 years since 9/11. And that's an important quarter century and we still haven't forgotten. So those things are going on. Plus, we have an important midterm coming up. So this is a very consequential time in our nation's history. And just I would say for those listening, pause and reflect on those, and then participate. And you mentioned something when we had talked earlier about bicentennial, right? Remember the bicentennial quarters?
Yes.
We've got the Bureau of Engraving director coming to speak, and I think the one thing that's raised a lot of hackles is the $250 bill, and it's very political, but it makes me smile too. But remember those bicentennial coins? Where's the what do they call it? The semi-quin? Oh, I forget the name of it. Semi quadricentennial,
There you go.
something like that, right?
People can't remember what the word is. They're
Yeah,
probably not going to do very.
quinticentennial. Yeah, I
Yeah.
forget what it is. There's some Latin name for it, but bicentennial was just so easy because that just rolls off the tongue. But
The quarter millennial.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, it's just a lot of things going on. So my closing this out would just be mindful of that, be thankful, and let's have a great and safe summer.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate your time today, Tony.
You bet. Thanks, Sarah.